Hello, everyone. Welcome to Looking Up. This is a podcast for Christian women, especially today. And I'm here with my friend Kathy Pollard. She's in Bowling. I'm actually not here with her. She's in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'm near Austin, Texas, in a little city called Dripping Springs. I think nobody's ever going to know where that is, but near Austin. We are just friends who love to chat, and we've actually just spent an hour and a half nearly chatting before we hit record. But we have not covered much of what we're going to talk about in today's topic. So we just enjoy talking about Christian things that would appeal and interest other Christian women. And today we've got a fun topic that we're looking forward to talking about. And it is a little bit before Christmas. And I see Ollie is sitting in your lap. Does he have something he wants to say today? Does he not know that this is a podcast for Christian women?
I know. He waited until we hit record and then decided, I want to be up there with you.
He needed you.
Yes.
Well, what's going on in Bowling Green, Kentucky today?
Well, I'm jealous in Bowling Green, Kentucky because Neil saw you guys last night.
Yeah.
Neil and Hiram are down there, have been down there all week recording a TV program. And so they got to see you. Neil said that pizza that y'all had was really, really good.
It was, but I ate. I had a calzone. John ordered a pizza, and then the rest of us ordered calzone, and John took a big chunk of mine. So I technically did not eat the whole thing, but I did eat all of the rest of what he did not eat. And I don't know if regret is the right word, but I, spent the time driving home thinking, I wonder how many calories I just ate. Why can't I just enjoy it instead
Yes,
of
don't wonder
about
these things. Some things aren't meant to be wondered.
Yeah, well, my
Right
pants are tighter this morning.
Right after you enjoy them, especially.
Yeah, but it was good. It was a place called Pie Society in San Marcos, and it was December 7th yesterday. So I'm figuring that the college students, it's a big college town, and it wasn't as crowded as I thought it would be. So I'm figuring that they probably have finals and are kind of winding things up. But it was real interesting hearing what Neil and Hiram have been working on and their commercials and the little 2-minute topics that they're doing for. It's a TV program there in Bowling Green, I know it goes out further than that, but.
Yes, called Light of the World. So they just film them at the WVBS studio down there. But Neil really enjoys those trips because he gets to spend time with Hiram. He gets to go to Texas and eat good barbecue. He gets to go to HEB 10,000 times. Yeah. And then bonus, he got to see you and John. So it was a really great trip for him.
It was fun to see them last night. I was wishing that you were with them, but.
Me too.
So you had some kind of a ornament party or something, I heard?
Yeah, a couple of the ladies from church, Holly Bauman and Heather Oles, organized an ornament party where you go make your ornaments. So
that's fun.
Yeah, excuse me. We've had ornament exchanges before, but this was different because you go make your ornament. And I actually brought mine to show you because I'm not a crafty person, but I feel like mine turned out okay. See that?
Oh, that's cute. Oh, really cute. It says Mary.
Yeah, thanks.
So is it like salt dough?
It's clay. Okay. And they handed out chunks to everybody. It was really hard at first. You have to knead it a good while to get it pliable. And then, just roll it out. And they had all these different cutters. And then they had all these different stamps and letters and tools and things that you could use. And then they baked them. And then they had all these different paint options. And
how long did it take to bake them?
15 minutes to bake, 15 minutes to cool. And so then you paint them and then they had the little cording and beads and
what a great idea. I love
it was fun. They just asked everybody to bring $5 to help cover the cost of materials. And then they had a bunch of really great snacks to munch on while the ornaments were baking. So it was fun.
That's a different take on what we always do with the I don't know what we call it, but
Dirty Santa.
I have heard it different ways, but Dirty Santa, where you steal ornaments and stuff, which is fun.
Well, that's what we usually do. So it was neat. They did a good job.
I like that you go home with it too, and you don't have to leave it there and wait for it. I like projects that can be completed all at once.
I was a little anxious because, excuse me, you know me and crafts, and at first I thought it looked pretty good before it was painted. I was like, hey, that didn't turn out too shabby. And she said, we're going to bake it for 15 minutes and get something to eat. And then it'll take 15 minutes to cool. And then we're going to paint it. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no. I got to paint too.
Well, I like that you did it just one solid color. I think
if I would it's supposed to be metallic gold.
Did everyone have the choice of what they could do?
They had all different colors, and some people did really fancy. Some people did, those vintage red trucks that you
Mm-hmm.
see at Christmas time that have the Christmas tree coming out of the
Yeah.
back. Some people did that as their ornament and even painted it, and it looked amazing. I'm like, here's my solid color snowflake.
Well, I was just thinking that would be what I'd need to do, because anytime I try to keep going, that's when I mess up.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it a minimal and then leave it alone is what I need to do. Other people can do it great.
Yeah.
You look at these little Christmas cookie contests that go on, you see on Facebook, vote on your favorite one. And I think,
my sister did that last night.
yeah, that was hers. And see, mine would be,
Excuse
I
me.
have no talent in that area. So
No.
some people do, and more power
Yeah.
to them, but I have to just paint it one color and leave it alone.
Well, Erin Eubank said to me last night, she was sitting at a table across the way. She was like, Kathy, are you okay? Is it going okay? Because I think I had that look on my face like, oh, this is so stressful.
Well, you're good at everything else, and you're not bad at crafts. You make it sound like you're terrible at it. I mean, you're not, but I mean, you get to be good at everything else. You just get to let other people be good at crafts.
You are a good friend. You're such a good friend.
I'm being for real.
Look what I got.
Oh, you got it. Have you read it yet?
Yes. In fact, I ordered 2 of them, so don't tell Rich and Jude, but
Okay.
I got one for each of their stockings. And it came yesterday, so I read it to Neil on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. And he kind of did a little courtesy laugh. And so I finally said, okay, I'll have to show you the video.
Well, he was probably doing something on the other end,
Oh, I know
he wasn't paying attention. So
I know he was.
Did you read it with a Scottish accent?
No. If I could, that's another thing I can't do, Carla Moore. I can't do accents.
All right, we found 2 things you can't do.
Oh, brother. So anyway.
Yeah. So you've had Peach's duty all on your own this week.
Yes, I did. Oh, yes, I did. And this is such good news. My son Gary recommended that I try Zyrtec.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take a little Zyrtec first thing in the morning. And when I go out there, I do not react in the barn as far as, before I felt like I was going to scratch my eyes out and my nose would start running and I'd start sneezing, a dozen times in a row. I don't do any of that. And so I don't have to go out there with my safety goggles and, the whole cute get up anymore. And I was so relieved because I've been really worried about it with Neil being out of town. And so it's made a huge difference. Now my skin still reacts to, I know this is TMI. You're welcome, everybody. My skin still reacts to the alfalfa hay. I had to pick up flakes of alfalfa hay to give to her every morning. And so like anywhere anytime I'm around that, I just get redness on my skin. So it hasn't helped with that, but it has helped with all the other stuff. So I feel like I can be out there in the barn with Neil now back again. And I'm really happy about that because I've missed it. And this morning, she licked me on the forehead. So she's nudged me before, sometimes nicely and sometimes not nicely. She's licked my boot. She's licked my jeans, but she has never kissed me in the face. And this morning I was leaning over with a pitchfork and she just reached over and just licked me right on the forehead. So
I had this mental picture of cow slobber all the way smearing your hair.
It's really no slobber at all. It's like just a rough tongue. But I thought, I know I have a literal cow lick for the first time in my life.
So is that where that expression came from? I've always wondered what in the world that means.
I guess so, because that was a first for me, but it was so sweet and very timely because I feel like she's leaving extra poop in the barn just for me since Neil's out of town. And when I first get out there, I'm like, oh, great. Thanks, Peaches.
Yeah.
But she's being so sweet and gentle and, just real loving this morning. I was like, I love you, Peaches.
Well, it was neat last night hearing Neil talk about how he enjoys doing that with you. Because I think John asked him about the allergy situation and he mentioned the Zyrtec. And he said he was really glad that it was helping because that's something that y'all do together and that it's meaningful, that you pray together and just different things which will play into what we're going to talk about in our episode later. So maybe we should quit talking about it here and talk about it later.
Well, before I forget, speaking of peaches, I don't know how much of this will show on the screen, but can you see this?
That looks just like her. Somebody paint that for you?
Yes. For those of you who can't see, this is a plaque of Peach's head. It's a door. It's for your front door
I
hanger.
love it.
Jennifer Harrison had this made for me from a
Sweet.
photograph of Peaches and gave it to me on Sunday. And
How
I
sweet.
absolutely love it. It looks just like her. So
On the
I'll,
other ear needs to hang a tag that says Peach's Hood.
yeah,
This is Peach's Hood.
that's right. Oh man.
Well,
So
what
I
else has
thought that
been
was
going
really
on this week while you've been by yourself? Did you eat anything fun or not eat anything you didn't want to eat?
I did not eat anything fun. I tried really, usually if meals out of town, I can lose a few pounds
Mm,
because I just kind of nibble a little bit and I stop eating way earlier in the day. I will tell you, since we're talking about food, did you know I heard this thing that they recommend for women a little bit
of a certain
older
age.
of a certain age, that you're supposed to consume as many grams of protein as your number in weight.
That's a
Am I
lot of
saying that
protein.
right? Well, actually, it's your where you want to be in your weight.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's a
depending on
lot
where
less.
you are, if you're happy with where you are, however much you weigh is how many grams of protein you're supposed to consume in a day. If you want to be 10 or 15 pounds less, subtract that. So, anyway, I thought, wow, that really seems like a lot. So, just this week, for the first time ever, I've tried to pay attention to how much protein I eat in a day. I eat like nothing.
Hmm.
And I have no idea how to even make that happen. And part of my problem is I only eat 2 meals a day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But even trying, so I've been taking collagen powder anyway, but now I'm adding protein powder. I put peanut butter on my whole grain toast in the morning. I've added, like this morning, I thought of you because I had cottage cheese with
Mm-hmm.
breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I ate a whole can of tuna. It was like I'm trying to think of all these things to pack in the protein, and I can't even get to slightly over half of where I'm supposed to be. I have no idea how people do that.
Are
I
you sure that's the proper statistic though?
well, I looked it up because I usually try to do that anyway if I hear something I've never heard before, and that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty prevalent thought.
So you want to weigh if you wanted to weigh 120 pounds, you need 120 grams of protein a day.
Mm-hmm,
That seems like a lot.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I
Well, I
guess
was
depending
talking
on.
about, strength training is really important.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not taking in enough protein to help support and build up those muscles and strength training, that strength training is not going to do you near as much good.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, I don't think I'll ever do that anywhere close, but I think it's been good for me to at least be more mindful of it because I'm pretty content in the morning to have like half a grapefruit and maybe a little yogurt, a piece of toast and one egg.
Mm-hmm.
A piece of toast and one egg is nothing when it comes to protein.
Yeah.
So just being a little bit more mindful of it will probably be helpful.
I've taken to making deviled eggs and eating those for breakfast, even more than cottage cheese lately, because, I think I've talked before about how it's hard to find a cottage cheese that I really like. And I
Mm-hmm.
have found a couple, but they're not easy to get. So I've just been making deviled eggs with Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise because there's a lot of protein in it.
Mm,
And then I'll add in like a tablespoon of ranch dressing or something like that just for flavor. And I like those, and I can make a bunch at a time and leave them in
mm-hmm.
my. Here's
That's
a
a good
tip.
idea.
Here's a tip. A devious tip. I have a great big cottage cheese, like a, I don't know, 36 ounce or 48 ounce Sam's or Costco size container that I had cottage cheese in. And that's what I keep my deviled eggs in. And I don't know that John necessarily would go after my deviled eggs because they're not all that appealing to him.
Yeah.
But if there's something that you don't want your family to eat, put it in a cottage cheese container in the refrigerator and they probably
Genius.
will leave it
Nobody will
alone.
touch it.
Mm-hmm. Or, something gross. I don't know, a big spinach box or something. Whatever your kids don't like, put your candy in there and hide it in the fridge. That's kind of dishonest, isn't it? But it's
No. Yes. Yeah. Technically, I guess it's deceptive.
It's misleading.
It's
It's
misleading.
protective.
Yes.
I mean, it's just deviled eggs. And I
Right.
really, if I don't mind him eating that stuff, but like if I have in my mind, okay, I'm doing, if I do 6 or 7 eggs at a time, that's 12 or 14 halves of the eggs, and that will last me however many mornings. And then if I go in there and find that they're not there, I'm like, now I have to make something else. So that's kind of why. That's my
Yeah.
reasoning. That's my
Well,
story,
and
and I'm sticking to it.
I feel like it takes a lot of work to make deviled eggs.
Yeah, a little
I
bit.
love them, but I really detest peeling eggs. So
Well, I found a way of
it's
doing
a
it.
labor of love.
If
How do
you,
you do
this is,
it?
I know there's a gazillion ways that you've heard,
Mm-hmm.
but like I always do the boiled eggs in one of those little egg cookers that has a little domed lid on it. Have you ever used one of those?
Mm-hmm.
It works really well. And I find them at Goodwill all the time, brand new, because probably people get them as gifts and they don't want it.
Yeah.
So you just make the eggs, and then immediately when the timer goes off, you plunge them into cold ice water for like 5 minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
then the peel comes right off. Like I've even been able to get the whole peel of an egg in 2 peels.
Wow.
Like you just kind of crack it, and then the top comes off and the bottom comes off. But the
Nice.
thing is, you can't leave them sitting in the cold water forever. You have to like put them right in the cold water and then just leave them there for 4 or 5 minutes and then peel them.
Hmm.
So yeah, it is a little bit of work, but it's something that I'm willing to do so that I'll have, a week's worth of breakfast right there. And it's just kind of pre-planning. People are
Yeah, I
probably
almost
thinking
texted you about
cottage
it.
cheese, deviled eggs. I'm
Why are they
really,
talking on and on about
yeah,
this
blah, blah,
boring
blah.
stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
I did want to mention Equipped
mm-hmm.
because I wrote down the dates for its Equipped is, oh, excuse me, April 18th through the 21st of next year in Bowling Green. And the theme is living by faith.
Yeah.
And it's going to be studies from the Gospel of John. So I wanted to bring that up because you and I get to record our Looking Up episode live there. So we're going to have a session there when we'll be having a conversation as one of the sessions at Equip. So any ladies who are in the area or would love to come, we'd love to see you there. April, what did I say? 18th through the 21st.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
some of the
mentioned that last
other
night.
lady speakers are going to be Melissa Kane, my sister, Christy Whittle, Lori Boyd, Alicia Bookout, some others.
Awesome.
So,
I'm trying not to do that. Yeah. I told you before we hit record that this week we were at my mom's. John and I were there, and mom had you and I on the TV. She likes to watch the YouTube version. And I just happened to mention to John that I did too much of them. Yeah. Like when we're like, if you have a conversation with someone, you
yeah.
typically are agreeing with them or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem.
Well, I said to John that I probably should need to kind of cut back on that, making the noises. And he said, yeah. And another thing, you need to get your face closer to the camera. Like, okay, that's got a little bit more than I asked for there. So if I'm trying to be silent. I'm just trying. I'm going to try it on this episode, but I probably will fail.
I
He
think
said it
I'd
doesn't
rather you
matter
just be
anyway.
normal since this is supposed to be just a
What's
conversation.
normal?
So
I mean, what is
normal
even
is
normal?
making noises like that.
Okay, noises.
Have you
Normal for
been
me.
thrifting since we talked last?
I did. I did a few days ago. I went to the one in Austin that I really like and haven't been able to go really in since the summer because we were in Denver and then we came back. We're on the cruise. And I found a few things. I found, nothing really super worth mentioning. I found a insulated, one piece, what you wear when you go hunting, camo for Jackson. It was his
Oh,
size. So nothing really
aw,
exciting. He'll
cute.
like it,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing that I really think anybody would be excited about. So what about you? What's on the homestead?
Well, I'd rather talk about my daughter-in-law, Emily, because she has just gotten into sourdough and is putting me to shame. And she sent me a picture the other night. She made sourdough cinnamon rolls and they looked amazing. And then yesterday she sent me this picture. she made a loaf of sourdough bread. Let me see if I can make it. Can you see that?
Well, it's kind of like
I can see
rainbow
it's
colored.
doing weird
It's got a
colors.
heart on it. I can see
But
that.
it's doing
You can
that.
share it
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah,
It's
that's
pretty.
terrible. Yeah, it's got a heart on it. It looks perfectly beautiful. I've never gotten a loaf of bread to look like that. And she's like, here's my first loaf of sourdough bread. And she said that she gave it to Rich to try. And he patted his belly and went, mmm.
He liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's not to like? You always
She
talk about
said,
not perfecting it. And I think how can you
I
not?
mean, it's still bread.
Yeah.
It's still bread. But she said that when Rich tried it, he smacked his belly. He smacked his belly and said, mmm.
He approved.
Yes.
That's all that matters, right?
He is my grandson.
He likes the bread.
I always smack my belly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have something I was going to bring up, and I thought long and hard about this because, sometimes when you ask, sometimes when you ask for input, you later wish you had not.
Mm-hmm.
So I reserve the right to withdraw my asking for input, but I'm thinking about a different hairstyle.
Oh, how interesting is this?
Mm-hmm.
What
So, I
hairstyle
mean,
are you thinking
I
about?
don't know. That's kind of what I'm wondering about, some input, because
Hmm.
I've basically worn the same hairstyle since high school. And so that's been 35-ish years, 37
I
since
mean, if it
since I
ain't
graduated.
broke.
Well, but my hair's changing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's curly. It's really, really wavy in the back,
Mm-hmm.
but right here next to my face, it's like straight as a pin.
Mm-hmm.
And I always feel like the longer it grows, it starts looking like a triangle. So when I get it long, it's like a triangle head. And I have some non-negotiables like bangs. I have to have bangs. I have tried to not have bangs. And, you and I were talking a little bit about something different, but how you get used to the way you look and it's really hard to make a change. And I don't think it's that. Part of it's my eyebrows. Thanks, Dad. I always thank Dad for my eyebrows because they're like wild and crazy. So I need something that kind of stays in my forehead. And so I need bangs. So that's a non-negotiable.
All right.
I don't really want short. And probably some people would look at my hair and think it's already short, but really it comes down, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 inches below my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking a little bit shorter, maybe shoulder length or maybe a little more, but I'm so nervous because every time I've ever cut it, I don't like it short.
Does your
But
hair
I don't
grow
know
fast?
huh?
Does your hair grow fast?
Pretty fast. Yeah.
Okay.
So, there's some cute styles out there now that are just kind of like the little waves. And I don't know. I want to be able to pull it back in I use a little clip sometimes, but I don't do that very often. So I don't know. I'm just thinking that I would throw it out there for your input and for listeners' input. And I have an appointment on Wednesday. So this comes out on Monday. So that's kind of short input time, which is probably better. And my friend Julia, she's going to cut it for me and do it for me. And I completely trust her. We have fun with her, but I just thought I would throw it out there and see if anyone had a suggestion. I have some ideas of kind of what I'm thinking, but like where it is right now, it's real. I don't think it's split ends, but it just like I can't brush it because then it gets frizzy because I have enough curl that it's frizzy. But even if I take a pick and pick through it or whatever, it still gets frizzy. But I know I'm burning it out because I'll use my curling iron around my face. I don't know if anybody else is like me, but I'm like, I can't see the back, so the back doesn't matter. I don't do the back of my hair. I might do one so it looks like I'm kind of paying attention to the back of my hair. Anyway, I just thought I would throw that out there and just ask for a few little, be nice to me. Don't tell me to cut a pixie cut because I'm not going to do that. It's not going to be, John does not like short hair.
So I look forward to all the pictures that will get posted looking at it and which one you choose. That'd be fun.
I think more than anything, I need something that is, not the kind that you get done at the hairstylist and you go home and you completely if I had someone to go home with me and do my hair every day, that'd be one thing, but it just needs to be something that is quick and easy and that I can do at home. So number one, it has to look good. Number two, it has to be easy. Number three, I have to have bangs. Number four, I reserve the right to reject any suggestion.
And it has to be long enough to pull back into a clip.
Yeah.
But
so no short layers, I think. What'd you say?
But other than that.
Yeah. Easy, right? There's not very many requirements.
Okay. Well, yeah. What a surprise. Speaking of surprises, I think that's good. Play into our topic today.
How is that going to play into our topic, Kathy?
Oh, you'll see.
Are you going to surprise me with something that you say?
No.
All right. Are we ready to move into topic?
I am, if you are.
I think that's all of the stuff that I have on we did go and we saw that Darcy and Turner this weekend, and that was fun. She smiled at me.
Oh.
Those newborn smiles are just the best. It wasn't gas. It was really a smile.
Sure.
It really was. She looked at me and did the whole thing. So hopefully nobody saw that.
Everybody saw that.
Okay, great. All right. Okay. So what we are going to talk about today is a little bit, I know, we consider sometimes that our topics aren't going to apply to everyone. And today's topic is really about married women and men too. But so if you're single, I still think that you might find some things helpful, but it's mainly kind of geared towards married women. If you're not married yet, this is something to keep in mind for the future. But we wanted to talk about how to stay close. And you've kind of put it like how to keep the spark alive. And I think that you and I both have really close marriages. We have Neil is your absolute best friend, and y'all love to be together and do things together. And John and I are the same way. He's my best friend, and we spend pretty much all of our time together. And full disclosure here, we laugh about this because anytime we plan on talking about some kind of marriage topic, it's almost a guarantee that we're going to have a big doozy of a fight. And maybe we should say disagreement, because we don't really fight. We don't fight, but we have disagreements. But yesterday was a doozy. Not a doozy. We had a disagreement. And the difference is, I think, between couples who are close is it's not alarming. It's not fun, but it's not something that that I'm worried about what's going to happen next. I'm confident. I know 100% that we're going to work it out. It may be something that we have to agree to disagree on, or he might not completely understand what it is that, where I might not even be able to explain what it is that I have a problem with, but we will come to resolution, and we'll get back to clicking, as you say, y'all clack sometimes when things aren't running on firing on all cylinders. But sometimes I look around and I know that it's I'm careful not to make a judgment, because you can appear one way on the exterior and it's completely different when you're at home. But sometimes I just feel like there are couples who they don't do anything together. They don't want to be together. They're just coexisting. And I don't want to be that way. I just always want to be close to John, and I always want us to be together and happy together, and serving together, and living a life that has the same goal and the same aim. And so I thought we would spend some time talking today about what are some ways that we can do our very best to stay that way, to stay close. And I fully realize that, I can only do what I can do. You can only do what you can do. And your husband is on the other end and has to lift up his side of the bargain or whatever. But I feel like if we do the things that what we're going to talk about today, that it'll make it easier for him to want to be that way. So that's kind of what I want us to talk about today.
Yeah, and I just want to throw in there, and we prayed this before we hit record, but we're not ever trying to set ourselves up as we've got this all figured out.
Right.
I agree with you that we're both very happy in our marriages. But just because we're talking about something like this doesn't mean we're setting ourselves up as some kind of standard, or that we've got it all figured out, or that we follow everything that we're going to talk about, that we don't mess up, and or that we don't see areas in our marriage that need improvement. I know for sure personally that there are areas in our marriage that we can improve on and things that I can do way better. So I just want to, anytime we have a topic about things like that have to do with the home, marriage, parenting, it's kind of tricky because they're a big part of our lives and we want to talk about them. And we want to share things that we think might encourage others because we need that encouragement, but we don't ever want to come across like we've got this all figured out. Listen to us.
No, not at all. In fact, I think we want to be real, and like the whole full disclosure thing, there have been times, and lots of times when we've had disagreements, and but I mean, we've got some time on our side too. We've been married 37 years, y'all. What, 34,
31.
Something like that, 31.
31.
So you learn a few things over that amount of time. I know there's a lot of women out there that know a whole lot more than you and I do, but we're just offering up some suggestions, and maybe we'll say sometimes do better than we do. Please hope that y'all can all do better than we've done in some of these areas, but that doesn't negate us being able to make some suggestions, I think.
Yeah.
So, So also I think this may be, I hesitate to even say this, but it may be a little more, we maybe want this to be more of a for sure, just the gals, because there may be some suggestions that we make regarding intimacy that, should I even say that? Because it's almost like when you tell your kids, don't go over here, they want to immediately go over there. But I mean, a big part of staying close is intimacy. So that's definitely going to come up today. So I just want to, I don't know if it's a warning, but just a heads up. Like if your kids are listening, we're not going to be
right.
What's the word when you just let it all hang out? We're not going to be that way, but there may be some things that
we're going to be tasteful, not boorish.
Not boorish and immature. What was that other word that he uses?
Boorish and immature.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Some of the things, you have a few ways, some tips, and I have some, but we again want this to be more conversational and not necessarily like a little devotional lesson. But the main thing to me that I think is the most important, more than any other, that is pretty obvious, is that we have the same goal in life and the same common purpose to serve God, and that we serve God together. And we don't, it's not his faith. Well, it is his faith and my faith, but together we have a faith in God and a faith in Christian principles, that if we do what God says and the way that God says to do it, then that more than anything else is going to help couples to remain close. Because if you both put it into practice, all of the principles that you read about in scripture of putting others before yourself, or treating someone with compassion or empathy or forgiveness, all of those things are more important in marriage than probably any other relationship in your life. So if you can put them into practice there, that alone is going to make your marriage happy and close. And even when you hit those rough patches, those rocky patches, that you're going to forgive, you're going to move on, you're going to try to see something from their perspective. And so to me, that would be more than anything, walk the same walk, have the same faith.
Yeah, that was the best place to start, really. And if you're putting that into practice, not just in name only, but sometimes we're really good about walking the walk outside the home, being more patient with other people and considerate and thoughtful and bend over backwards to help somebody else out. But then in the walls of our own home and the walls of our own close spaces, with the people that are dearest to us, sometimes we get lazy about those basic principles of Christianity, and selfishness can creep in, and not being so willing, but feeling more put out when he asks for help, or, some of those things. So just getting back to the basics of remembering we're putting Christ first, and that affects everything about me, my demeanor, my attitude, my speech, all of those things.
When you think of close couples that you know, what are some traits that you've noticed about them that make you think that they're close?
They still flirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you said that intimacy plays a big part in it, but and I don't even mean necessarily that kind of flirting, but there's just something different about the way they look at each other, but they still hold hands. They still, I'm going to kind of cross over on some of the things I'm going to say later, but still laugh together. They act like they like each other.
Yeah.
I know that sounds so basic, but how many couples do you see out there that just really act like they don't really like each other at all? Or, maybe it's not even going so far as they don't like each other, but they're just indifferent to each other.
Right.
But when you see a couple that you can tell they still enjoy being together and they still laugh and smile at each other, and it's just obvious. You can't hide something like that. It's just so obvious.
There's, we talk sometimes about, oh, we should do a girls' trip here or there. And I think it would be fun. And I've done lots of girls' trips, but every time I've been on a girls' trip, there has not been ever a time that I've not thought to myself, I would rather be with John. And I don't mean that, for anybody that I've ever been on a girls' trip with, it's not a knock about who I'm with, because I always enjoy that. But I guess there's just a level of comfort and security, and just he's just the one I want to be with. And I know that it's not that way. In fact, I heard somebody say it was years and years and years ago. They made a comment about she was asking, have you ever been around couples who just they can't be away from their spouse? And she was kind of talking negatively about it. And it's not that I can't be away from him. There's plenty of times that he's been gone, and we laugh about when our husbands are gone, we can have popcorn for dinner if we want, whatever. But there's just not a time that I would ever choose to not be with him if I had the choice. So I feel like there are relationships that really just are closer than others, and I want ours to be that way. And I think it takes work. In fact, there was Kim Sargent, and by the way, today's her birthday. I just noticed that on Facebook. So shout out to Kim, happy birthday, even though this is coming out a few days after your birthday. But she posted something just yesterday, and it caught my eye because I knew what we were going to talk about. Yeah. And she didn't write it. It was someone else, but she shared it. And it says, "You're so lucky you have a good husband." I was quoting someone else. She said, "No, it isn't luck. All these years later, I can tell you with certainty there's nothing lucky about our marriage. I think we need to stop painting the picture of a happy marriage that doesn't come through hard work." And so that's what we're talking about today, this hard work. Any couple who has a healthy, happy marriage that has lasted didn't get there by luck. They didn't just stay happily married. They sacrificed. They forgave. They rebuilt trust that was broken. They apologized. They trusted God. They kept trying. They got help when they were stuck. That's a big, huge one. They kept dating. They made time for each other. They learned how to communicate. They cared more about the marriage than their pride. There's a song, just a side note here. It's Pink, Pink and Chris Stapleton. And I've thought about sharing it lots of times because it's a pretty profound song. It says, just say you're sorry. Just say, I'm sorry. It's not the hardest thing to do. And it goes on and says, you say you would die for me. Why can't you kill your pride? And anyway, I may share that song next week. So just say you're sorry. And kill your pride. Okay, they cared more about the marriage than their pride. There was nothing lucky about the marriage. They worked hard for one another. They got up on their crosses and denied themselves for one another a lot. The truth is, there's no happily ever after without the blood, the sweat, and the tears. The truth is that you can't get to happy without going through the hard stuff. Your marriage is worth working for. And then it quotes 1 Corinthians 13 so much about love. And I thought, that's just, everything about that is so true. There's some marriages just seem to be made in heaven and all that, but there's no relationship out there that has not gone through, that hasn't gotten stuck, that has not gone through rocky times. And maybe people don't talk about it out loud. They don't confide in others. And so you don't see those hard things. But I know, we've you and I have been in ministry long enough and have counseled enough and know that there's just hard stuff going on out there. The devil makes me so mad. He never quits. And I thought, this is another topic I jotted down for another day. What are some ways that the devil uses to get in between families, not just marriages, but families with small children, with grown children? There's just so many ways. And I get so sick of how he works. He never gets tired. So we have to be on guard and watch out for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I saw that too, that she had shared that. And it seems like anytime we come up with a topic that we're going to talk about, I start seeing things from other people. And sometimes our own preachers, if I know this topic is going to come air on Monday morning, sometimes our own preachers, either Neil or Hiram, will mention something in their sermon on Sunday that we will talk about, the next day. So,
yeah.
But I saw that was really good. I almost copied it off myself. So I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. Well, so unity in our walk, I think, is the main thing. And realizing that it's going to take hard work is another thing. But apologies, that's something that is going to have to happen in order to stay close, because I've never been very good at apologies. Is it easy for you to say you're sorry?
No, Neil, it's very easy for Neil to say he's sorry. He's very humble. And it is very hard for me to say I'm sorry. And I really struggle with my pride. And so, in fact, the few times that I've done it, like I can remember, because it just melts Neil, and he'll tell me, I've never loved you more. And so I know how effective it is, but I really struggle with that. Yeah. And he doesn't. So
yeah, I struggle with that too. And it is all about pride, but it takes me a long time to get to figure out my part in things. And so I feel like we've covered a lot of these things before, but not everyone's listened to every episode. So just thinking about how we have to figure out what part we're playing in any disagreement that we have, and how to there's always something that we've done wrong that we can find to apologize for. But I think that helps to keep people close. And then I wrote down, let's just go here. I wrote down touch and affection and hugs. And it made me laugh when I wrote down the word hugs, because years and years ago, do you remember before it wasn't ClearPlay, there was a little device, and that's what I can't remember what it was called. It was before ClearPlay, because now you have ClearPlay where it'll, cut out the bad scenes. You can watch movies that you couldn't ordinarily watch because of the language or the sex scenes. But whatever device, TV Guardian, that's what it was called. It was an actual little box that you connected to your.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, you connected it to your VCR or to your DVD player, whatever it was, and it filtered whatever you were watching, and it would cut out bad language. It would substitute on the little caption. And so when I wrote down the word hugs, it made me laugh, because this was when our boys were small. And anytime anyone would say the word sex, it would cut it out and it would put in the word hugs in the closed captioning. So, John and I would like look at each other and laugh, because that was a euphemism for the word sex. Sometimes the word just means, we would laugh about this too, because it would be some innocuous TV program that was talking about the sex of your child, and it would come out and say the hugs of your child, but oh
no,
but how important is that? Just affection and touch and intimacy. And I think about, you and I talked about this before we hit record, how we want to be careful how we say things, but yet we also want to be real and honest, and talk about how important this is to maintain a close and healthy and affectionate marriage is sex. And it's so important. And it's not, I think I was surprised, I guess when I was younger, I thought it was just for younger people, and it's not. And that's as far as I'll go with that. But if you don't hold hands, if you don't have that sanctuary of privacy, between you and your husband, then I think that leads, I don't know. I just think that you can't overemphasize how important that is, because if you don't have that, then how does that, it's called, I've heard it called God's super glue for marriages. Sex is God's super glue. And because it's just something that you share with no one else. It's just the two of you. And that's part of why we want to be so careful in how we say things, because it is talking about you and I on the podcast, because it is such a private thing. And we don't want to cheapen it. We don't want to make it something that we laugh about, because it really is a sanctuary and a private area between couples that helps to maintain closeness.
Here's something I will say is that anytime Neil touches me, I am always completely aware of it. I don't think I've ever, after 31 years of marriage, I don't think I've ever gotten to that point where I don't pay attention to it, or I take it for granted, and it's not because he doesn't do it very often. He always does. He's always grabbing my hand or resting his hand on my shoulder, or when we're in church, putting his arm around me. And every single time, I just love it, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm aware of it, and it communicates to me every single time.
Yeah.
And if it's just a hug when he gets home from work, a real hug.
Yeah. hug.
In the literal sense of the word.
Yeah.
Or it just a SWAT passing by. I mean, every single time. Yeah. It's like deposits for me in my love bank, to use this corny phrase, but probably my first love language is quality time, and my second one is physical touch. And so it's just never gotten stale for me. It's never gotten to be something that I don't mind or take for granted. So for me, I think if I ever get to the point where I don't want him touching me, it annoys me. It's stop touching me, stop, to me, that's a red flag that something's wrong. And there's a part of me that just wants to make that statement. If you get to that point where you don't want your husband touching you, or you don't want to touch him, that's a red flag. Something's wrong. But I don't know that I can make that statement, because I think there are some people that just really don't like to be touched. That's just a personality thing. I think sometimes for women, it can be a hormonal thing, a temporary hormonal thing. But some women just really aren't touchy-feely kind of people. So I'm not going to make that statement.
Yeah. For you, it's true for you.
But for me, I know it's true. And I think for a lot of people, really, like you were saying, physical touch is just those gentle reminders of you're here, I'm here, we're together, we're connected. How simple is that? And sometimes you can just get out of the habit without realizing it.
Yeah.
And it might even start to feel a little bit awkward at first to make those gestures to be more touchy.
Yeah, there's certain, you sit next to Neil, I sit next to John, whatever, and you don't think anything about brushing up against him. But when you think about if it was anybody else, it would absolutely be uncomfortable. So there's that level of comfort from that. But I love what you say, because that's so true. It's an actual physical feeling for me when he touches me, just a simple touch, like you said, deposits in your love bank. But I think of my chest, I feel it. It's like a comfort and a warmth. And I guess some of it's because there's not anybody else in the world that's going to touch me like he does. And, I hate having to be so careful, because I don't want to, I just don't want to say anything the wrong way. But that physical touch is such a private, valuable time that no one else shares. No one else knows that about your relationship but the two of you. And in a world, especially now, where everyone knows everything about us, I just think that's extra valuable. And it's an extra, we have to be intentional about it. Go back to what you said about if you don't want it. I know that there were times when our kids were little, and probably there's moms right now who have small children, and you're touched all day long. Someone's hanging
Exactly.
on you, someone's poking you, and you just, at the end of the day, you're like, don't touch me. I'm literally touched out. And not meaning it like I despise you, but I just need some space or whatever. So I get that. I remember that very well.
Yeah.
But I can also say that on the other side of that, because we have stayed close in all the different ways, it's even better now. I don't have that. I'm touched out because I don't have that anymore. I just think that we can't really overemphasize the importance of staying close intimately, and doing what we can to encourage that, because there's times that we're tired, or we've had a hard day, or that that Josh Turner, I'm not even gonna go there. I may share it in the group next week, but you just have to, it takes time. You have to shut off your mind from what's been going on that day. And sometimes it's harder than others, or you may be in the middle of grief, or there may be all kinds of things going on in your life that when you retire to the privacy of your own room, you have to have this period of time where you just can decompress and just relax, but to be there with the person that you love the most in the world, and to know that they care how you feel about things, and that they're just wanting to be with you. It's just, there's something invaluable about intimacy, and God gave it to us. Yeah. And we in the worldly sense have cheapened it so much that it's so casual. There's so many jokes and we come across them if we're not careful what we are putting in front of our eyes, in books, in TV, social media, whatever. Jokes about sex and just have made it so cheap, and it's not. That's another way that the devil is working, is to casualize. I don't even know if that's a word, but to make intimacy and sex and physical touch between a husband and a wife, it's almost laughable in the world that anyone would have a monogamous relationship that may not have ever known anyone else that way. I will say this also, if there's and it may not exactly fit here, but I just want to say it while we're talking about this subject. If there's anything I could go back and change about some of the teaching that I did to young girls, I think when we were in camps and things, we talked about purity and how important it was, and we really stressed it. And I don't regret that at all, but I wish I had spent more time talking about forgiveness, and how if you have gone down that road, God absolutely forgives, and you can have a fresh start. And so I'm going to leave that there. I just, because I don't know who's listening, I don't want anybody to come away from what we're talking about here thinking, well, I messed up when I was a teenager, I can never have what they're talking about. You absolutely can. God makes all things new. So I'll move off from that. But I just wanted us to really emphasize how important the sexual relationship is, to keep husbands and wives close, and to not listen to the world about that, to listen to God. God talks about it. It's in scripture, and very specifically in scripture. And so it's a good thing, and it's a wonderful thing. And it's God blessed and God given. God invented it. So another one of those things that if we do it God's way, then he will continually bless us. So super important, don't you think?
I do think, and I'm sure it goes without saying, but none of these things that we're going to be talking about today are ever meant to be used as a form of manipulation. Especially intimacy, that's something that needs to be protected, cherished, treasured, and meant to be an investment in each other, a time to connect and be together. And so just throwing that out there. Hopefully that's a given, but yeah. I know it has happened. I know, some have taken advantage of the situation and used it as a form of manipulation, or withholding as a form of punishment. So, obviously there's a right and a wrong way to handle all of these things that we're going to be talking about. But I think that you were talking about Satan being active. Maybe before you get married or when you're young, you have this idea of what you think intimacy is going to be like. And I don't know that it ever is, because you've never experienced it before. How many people are actually going to talk to you about it? Your parents might say something, but they're not going to share things that are their story behind their bedroom doors. And so whatever you think you're going into that situation thinking or expecting, I think that's the beauty of it, is learning your unique relationship with your husband, and creating your intimacy story with your husband. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says or does or thinks or whatever. This is between you and your husband. And other people, like you were saying, other people can compliment you, spend time with you, treat you like a Christian is supposed to, all these other things, except for when it comes to the area of intimacy, that's yours and yours alone. And so, even in that area, there's a time for listening. There's a time for forgiveness. There's a time for discovery. There's a time for adventure. There's a time for, there's all these things that can be a part of it that I think continues to grow and develop. I don't think you arrive at something, within your first year of marriage, and then that's how it is for the rest of your life. That's just one of those things that's ever evolving and growing and developing. And it's your precious relationship and your treasured intimacy that you get to experience with your husband.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well put. So thanks. I think that we've stressed that, and just want to encourage, if you're a young married, it can get better. It can get even better, because when you put the time and effort into your relationship, it's all about love. It's not, you think it I know I've told the story about finding that note when I was cleaning the church building, that this young woman said to her fiance, "Let's not ever get fat." And I think attraction is not just about how you look. Attraction is about how you feel about someone and how you love your husband. And so don't overemphasize the physical in this area, although we're talking about the physical relationship, but it's all about love and growing your love. And so the two are intertwined: physical love and emotional love and spiritual love. And there's just all kinds of different ways, the agape love. So love one another, and don't be afraid to share it together, to enhance it, to, just enjoy that, and know that it's blessed by God, and that God wants us to remain close. And I think there's no other reason for it than to help couples remain close. So don't go, so just stay out of the world. Stay out of the world, and don't let the world affect how you feel about sexual relationship. Okay, some other things that are important. Talking, which seems so simple, but especially when you have little kids, it's kind of hard. We laughed. Well, Aaron and I were trying to have a conversation on the phone, and all three of the kids were in the car, and all three of the kids were talking at the same time. And I couldn't hear anything Aaron said, and she couldn't hear anything I said. And I know that that's probably goes on with Jordan and Aaron, trying to be able to talk together when you've got three kids is almost impossible. But, I also know that you can put your kids to bed early, and you can have date nights. And speaking of that, this is something that I wrote down, that John is my number one person. No matter what stage of life we're in, when the kids were little. What do you think about this? And I know what you're going to say, but let's just talk about it. Does your spouse need to be more your relationship with your husband need to be more important than your relationship with your children.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I read some things this morning about how that seems harsh, because when you have small children, especially, they're very demanding, not maniacally so, but they just take a lot of time and a lot of energy, and there's things that you can't ignore. If they're climbing on top of the stove, you have to go take care of that. But it's not a selfish thing to value, I don't even know exactly how to say it, but to put your relationship with your husband over that of your relationship with your small children, your older children, whatever. Because there was something that I read that scientifically, it makes your children more confident, more at ease in the world when your relationship is solid. And this is something that I wrote down, and it was from a secular magazine, so it's not a spiritual thing necessarily, although you can take it that way. The single largest factor in determining a child's social, emotional, and cognitive development is the emotional connection between the parents. Mm-hmm. So, talking about a child's social, emotional, and cognitive development, but I think you could put spiritual development in there too. And they went on to talk about how it's a matter of self-care. And I think that's kind of a buzzword that we go too far with sometimes. But your marriage relationship, when it's solid and when it's close and important to you, that helps to preserve your mental health. It helps to preserve that romance that you have. And when you have that gives confidence to your children. They're not worried about what's going on with their parents. And so I think that it's easy to feel like you really, to be a good mom, you have to give it all to your kids. But I think in reality, the way that God wants it is to give it all to him first, but give it all to your husband, and then the outflow will benefit your children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that moms go into that relationship intending for it to get topsy-turvy. I just think that like you say, the needs of the children are just more urgent when they're little and when they're small, and you're their caregiver 24/7. And sometimes it just gradually happens that you put all your energy and effort into that and start neglecting some of the things that your husband needs, because he's not going to stand there and demand it. Yeah. Like your children will, by crying. And
well, he might.
So, well, that's true. And he might cry, but so I don't think that most women intend for that to happen. It just can gradually happen through neglect.
Yeah.
Unintentional neglect. And so to keep that relationship a priority, you just have to remember to pray about it, keep nurturing it as best you can. And it's a lot easier if you're two on board doing that together, but nurturing it as best you can while your children are young, and you will never regret that. And your children will love it. You'll love it. When they leave home, you won't be strangers. So
and that's the main thing.
So many good reasons to keep talking.
Yeah, maybe not the main thing, but that's a huge thing, because before long it's going to be the two of you again. And it happens quicker than you think it's going to happen. And then what do you have to talk about? If you haven't maintained your relationship, if you haven't stayed close, if you haven't put in the work to maintain the relationship God wants you to have, then you're going to be strangers. So don't be afraid to maintain and keep your relationship with your husband on a higher level than that of your children. I don't know what does that look like? It just means dating, going out on dates, and putting the kids to bed early, and maybe sometimes saying, hold on, I'm talking to dad right now, or whatever. I know we all have to do that at some point, but I just want to encourage, especially young moms, to not be afraid to have your husband your number one, behind God, of course. What else? Your turn.
Okay. Well, I approached it a little bit differently. So this is both the beauty and the curse of how we do these things. Yeah. So, because I was thinking, when you brought up this topic, which I loved, I was thinking how to keep the spark alive, So in my mind, it was more along the lines of, it's a given that you're in this good, solid marriage. But sometimes it just feels like you're just kind of stuck in a rut. You're just going through the motions, you know? So in my mind, I was kind of thinking is how to keep it interesting, engaging, the attraction there, the
Spicy,
spark
huh?
there, spicy. Exactly. That's a good word for it. So that was kind of where I went with some of the things that I jotted down. And the first one was be intentional with your communication. And some of this we've already talked about, you know, but um, I just mean give thought to it throughout the day, not just the words that you say, but your body language. You know, we've talked before about the resting face and how that can come across, um, but we communicate a lot with our body language, even more than our words, really, because you can say something in your body language saying something completely different. But if you're feeling stale in your marriage, and I don't even mean to the point of dissatisfaction, I don't even mean that Satan's gotten in there and now you're disgruntled with your spouse. You know, I'm not even talking about, I mean, it could be, but if you're just kind of you just realize you've just kind of been going through the motions, you know, in your own marriage, maybe be a little more intentional with the things that you say, and give some thought to some things that you can say that can revamp some of that interest. We did that when we were dating, and probably not in the moment. I mean, I dare say some of us gave thought ahead of time to what we were going to say the next time we saw them, you know, and because you definitely wanted to convey a message. You definitely wanted to convey your interest. And so with your words, with your body language, you know, just start thinking about putting a little bit more intention into it when you're together and when you're not together, you know, shooting a thoughtful text in the day or something like that. I just think that that's such an easy way. You were talking about talking, but maybe if a little bit of spark is missing, think back to the things that you used to say and the way you used to look at him when he came home or when you glanced at him across the room or across the auditorium. I love Neil on Sundays, especially because I love to see him at work with that, you know, interacting with people. I love to hear him preach, and it always makes me feel like I want to shoot him a look.
Yeah.
And
on Sunday.
Yeah.
While
Sometimes
he's
I
in
do
the pulpit.
it. Sometimes I wait till the invitation song, you know, when he's standing there facing the auditorium. But you know what I'm talking about. Just be intentional. Yeah, exactly.
With your eyes.
I saw this saying the other day. It says, I can keep my mouth shut, but you can read the subtitles on my face, you know, and I feel like sometimes that's where we get, you know, I'm biting my tongue, make me so mad, but I'm not going to say anything. It's like, but you can read the subtitles on my face. But the opposite of that is true as well. And in some ways, to me, that's more exciting, you know. And when you've been married for any length of time, a few years, getting to that point where your vocabulary is almost all body language because you know what you're thinking. If you hear somebody say something and you look at each other, you've got that shared experience, you know. I love that. And I think that's exciting. And just taking the time to communicate those secret signals, if you will, again, like you used to, I think is the first thing. And then, so I don't, my second one is pay attention to details. So I think it is wildly attractive when Neil notices things. So, and when I was thinking about this, I thought some of the things I wanted to say, I thought, no, that's just me. Neil doesn't feel the same way, you know, or that just means a lot to me because I'm a woman or this is my love language or whatever. So I was trying to think of things that I think both parties would find mutually sparky. But, you know, if you notice they've did something different to their hair, you know, or they smell good, or you know, they've done something different, they changed up their routine, they changed up their schedule, they tried something, they ate something they don't usually eat, just little things like that. I don't mean this in the stalkery, you know, scary way, like you're smothering
but that they know
me.
you.
but that they're paying attention, that
Yeah.
they care to pay attention. And or remembering things, paying attention to the details is remembering things too. Remember things that they've said they like or they don't like, and bringing that up. Oh, I did it this way because I remember you said that you blah blah blah. Well, obviously that's going to make you feel cherished, and when somebody stops paying attention, I think that's when we kind of we just fall into the rut. We're just coexisting at this point. We're courteous to each other, we're polite to each other, but we're not really interested. We're just not paying attention anymore. So started thinking maybe, at that morning, pay closer, be intentional about it. I keep using that word, but that's where we fall into the rut. It's just we just stop paying attention. We stop being
well, you can send a
intentional.
message. You can say, talking about sparky things, you can say, I'll meet you back here tonight. Something like that. And it's just, 5 words, but you've communicated a whole lot more than just in 5 words. And that keeps them thinking about you the whole day,
Well, and again, when it comes to paying attention to the details, that you did that when you were dating. Yeah. Every single thing, what he wore, how he smelled, what he liked, what he didn't like, how he wanted to spend his time, and you wanted to accommodate. We were not only interested in we wanted to know everything about him, but we wanted him to know that we were interested and wanted to know everything about him. There's a difference there. And so bringing some of that back, I think will bring some of the spark back.
Some people are better at that than others.
Yeah.
But I think it's something you have to work on. And if it's important, especially important to you, I think communicate that, because again, that whole expectations are premeditated resentments comes back here, because if you expect him to notice something about you and he doesn't, and you get mad, then that is like the opposite effect, So if you,
then he has no idea why you're giving him the silent treatment.
Exactly. So, I think, because I know John is not, he's not as, he doesn't notice things as much as Neil does, just from things that you've said, I know, but I don't hold it against him. There's times that I'm like, I wish he, like I can go to the store and I can get John this and this and this and this because I know he likes it, but would John be able to do that for me? Probably not. But it doesn't make me mad at all, because that's just not what his strength is. He has other strengths that are important to me. So I think along these lines, what you're talking about, communicating, like what you've said is, I love it when you notice things about me. I love it. And, I find it very attractive when this happens, whatever. To me, it might be something different, but the important thing is to communicate that to them. And then if they don't do it exactly the way we expect them to, don't turn it into something that is going to divide you instead of make you closer. Be careful about that, I would say.
Well, and yes, I'm glad you made that clarification, because none of these things that I have on here, my little list of things, are essential for marriage, for a good godly marriage. None of them are. And that's why I kind of said that in the beginning of mine, because you started out with, have the common faith thing. And I'm going, oh, that's what we're talking about.
Maybe I should have been more clear. But I think this is a great talk anyway.
Yeah, I do too. And so what I'm saying is, if you're listening to me and you're like, well, my husband doesn't really pay attention to the details, so we have a horrible marriage.
Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is, if you find yourself in a rut and you're just going through the motions, maybe try a couple of these things and see if it doesn't bring back that spark that you used to feel when you were dating. That's all these things are. The next one was shake things up. And that's why I said in the beginning, the word surprise. Some people love surprises and some people hate surprises. I understand that, but it makes me smile every single time that Neil does something unexpected. And obviously I'm not talking about something bad, but if he makes a suggestion or says or does something, it kind of makes me want to go, wait, what did you just say? Who are you? it's that whole unexpected. I think it keeps energy in your relationship. And if
I think I
maybe
might
you're in
need some examples here.
okay, maybe you're in a rut of what you do in the evenings, and it's very easy to fall into that, especially in the winter when it gets dark at 4:30 and you have no kids
You
at
want to go to
home
bed?
and you're two old people who just get in your pajamas and want to watch TV. I'm not saying that from personal experience.
Yeah. Hiram said last night, I'm gonna need Brittany to tuck me in at 4:30 when it gets dark.
But, suggest something different. Suggest going for a drive. Suggest, anything different that's unexpected. And then you kind of go, what now?
Yeah, that's great.
We all get into our routines, our habits. We're habitual creatures most of the time, whether we intend to be or not. And that's not bad. But every now and then, shake things up, do things a little bit differently.
And don't wait for him to do that. You do something.
Yeah. And even when it comes to, I started out with being intentional with how you communicate. Say, I love you differently. Just shake things up a little bit. Change up a nickname, try a new nickname. The ones that you've been using for years are special, but
Schnookums?
no, scratch that one. we'll we'll let them come up with their own.
We can have a.
But if my husband, if Neil says a new nickname, I'm gonna be like, huh?
Yeah.
And I might tease him about it, but it'll make me smile because it's different. It's fun. It's flirtatious. It's
communicate love.
Variety is the spice of life, right? As they say. And there is definitely a place for the comfort of the traditions that you've created in your relationship and the habits. And obviously we need that peace and security and comfort of all of that. But sometimes it's good to just shake things up a little bit. Keeps things exciting. And then I have celebrate everything. Life is short, relationships are short, and I think we can do better than just celebrating birthdays and anniversaries and Valentine's Day. Those are things that the world has decided are things that we should celebrate, but there is so much more to celebrate. And you know how when you were dating, you had like a 1 month anniversary.
Yeah.
We met 1 month ago today. We went on our first date 1 month ago today. All those things are like these huge milestones, and you kind of get away from that. And I'm not really talking about that necessarily, but I do think that if we're paying attention, we find so much more to celebrate. And when you treat a day or a moment like that worthy of celebration, whether that's lighting a candle at dinner or dressing up for something or putting on a lipstick or whatever it is, anything that makes your husband go, what's the occasion? Just whatever that means in your relationship. There needs to be more of those. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think along those lines too, take care of yourself. Brush your teeth.
Okay. Oh, look, take care of yourself. I literally wrote that one in. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier in the intimacy part about it's not about like body image and how you look and stuff, but
it's not just about that.
It's not just about that. But first of all, it's a proven fact that the better you feel about yourself, the nicer you treat other people. And if things have gotten stale in intimacy, sometimes we just don't feel good about ourselves. We just don't. And it's not necessarily what we're seeing in the mirror as much as it is what effort are we putting into that to take care of ourselves. And just every little bit of effort of you taking care of yourself is a message that I care about how not just I look to you, to my husband, but how I feel, the level of energy that I have. And I know that we do have young listeners because I have the statistics. So let me just say this. Neil's dad always says the old man lives with what the young man does. I think that's really true here too. Go ahead and get in the habit of now of making good, smart choices of how you take care of your body, how you use your time, how how you eat, how much water you drink, all of those little, how you take care of your skin, because all of those little things affect later how much you can enjoy life together.
Yeah.
Your quality of life together. And that's an investment. But anyway, like you were saying, taking care of yourself as far as spark goes, smell good.
That's kind of a given, but maybe not for everyone.
Don't smell bad. Brush your teeth. Don't be slovenly all the time. We're not talking about not being comfortable in your own home, but these are just, again, things that we used to care about. I used to use this example occasionally when I taught in the women's program that I don't know that. Do I want to share this?
Whisper it in my ear and I'll tell you.
It's not bad. It really is kind of a personal thing, but it's not bad. Now everybody's gonna be like, what is it? It's nothing. But Neil's favorite.
Where are you going with this?
No, it's just one of those things. You know how you don't want to be a couple that people are like, okay, now she's just being ridiculous. I feel like this might be crossing over that line a little bit, but oh well.
We've crossed a lot of lines.
Favorite toenail polish on me color is red toenail polish.
Okay.
And I almost hate red toenail polish. Yeah. Like, it is my least favorite color. When I go get a pedicure, I want to go for peach, pink, pearl. Like, I'm much more of a subtle. I like neutral colors.
Yeah.
But he loves bright fire engine red. And so I know that if I'm choosing that color, I'm sending a message to him. And I'm just letting him know, your opinion matters to me. Yeah. I know that you like this, and so I'm going to do it for you, and that's just that take care of yourself thing. When you are dating, we can be observant when we want to be, and we know what they like. We can figure that out real quick as women. We know what our husband, our boyfriend finds attractive and likes and things like that. And so we would do that. And all I'm saying is that doesn't change when you get married. And sometimes we just don't give it as much attention as we used to. And maybe we can bring some of those little things back. And then I have one more. Oh, I think you already mentioned, maybe you didn't mention it. Have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Or develop a sense of humor, or bring back your sense of humor.
Laugh at yourself. Yeah.
Laugh at yourself, or just be lighthearted in general. I mean, the world is so heavy. Anyway, life is heavy. Some of our listeners are in ministry like we are. Sometimes things just get serious, and everything is serious. Everything's important. Everything is soul related, and that's not bad. That's all beautiful. But being lighthearted, and even, I'm going to use the word silly at times, is a little bit refreshing. And when it's unexpected, Neil, I've always been attracted to his sense of humor anyway. But when he catches me off guard with his sense of humor, like in the moment, I just wasn't expecting it. It's just like this burst of, it feels good to laugh. It makes me feel close to you. I've always been attracted. It like reminds me, I've always loved this about you. I've always loved how you make me laugh. So that's what I have.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that we kind of had different ideas, and maybe I know where your mind is, huh? Well, no, I think that we should talk more about that, and maybe later on we can talk more about the things to do to maintain a healthy marriage, because I think I understand why you thought what I was talking about when I said keeping a close marriage relationship, because that physical relationship and all of the things that surround it are really what keeps you close. And so I think that just expanding, it's been good to talk about that, because I think we're hesitant to do it because we want to be tasteful. We don't want to be say things that are going to make other people uncomfortable, but yet we don't talk about this enough. And so I'm glad we did. I think again, bringing up the taking care of yourself, just personal. I gained a lot of weight right when we first got married. And this will make people uncomfortable, but I was there, so I have a little invested in it. I can talk about it. And then in 2011, John and I both lost 70 pounds. Now it's gone up and down a little bit since then, but I didn't ever go back up to where I was. And everything was better. I felt better. My self-confidence was better. My attitude was better. I could do things better than I could before, as far as moving around. I could play tennis. I could get down on the floor and get back up. Everything was better. And so was physical relationship was better. And I won't go into detail there, but it just enhanced that. So take care of yourself. I wish that I could go back to, early marriage and not gain that weight, because once you put it on, it's like those stupid fat cells always remain, and they're always going to want to come back. And again, like I'm the one that just said that it's going to happen. You're going to put on weight. Your body's going to change. You have a child, or you don't have a child, or you just, life happens and your body changes. And the physical relationship is not about that. It's not all about that, I should say. But when you feel better about yourself physically, the physical relationship is better. So just be careful and be healthy. Try to be healthy. And when you're young, you don't really think so much about it, because you just you think you've got plenty of time, or for whatever, you just get distracted by life. But if we sit down and think about it and decide, I want to be around for my kids, I want to be around for my husband, I want to make the most of what God's given me. And sometimes that means taking control of our physical health, and it just helps in so many other areas. Your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, all those things are affected by your physical health. So that's and it really does enhance the physical relationship.
Yeah, and it's in no way seeking the fountain of youth, the age define the reversing the effects of age. It's in no way has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with thinking that your body needs to look a certain way. Because like you say, things happen. Our bodies are going to change, wrinkles are going to come, things are going to drop. Just it's just the way it is. We're going to have, if we have children, our bodies are going to change. We might gain weight then. Hormones may cause us to gain. I mean, things are going to happen with that no matter what. But taking care of yourself means that I'm staying active. I'm trying to make smarter eating choices. The whole 80-20 is supposed to be a really good rule. Not that you've gone to the extreme to where the gym is your shrine, and fitness is your religion, and you don't ever relax and eat anything because you're so uptight about no. Not talking about this obsession, with trying to be a certain person or anything like that, but just taking normal steps to take care of yourself by trying to stay active, trying to overall make better choices. You're just going to feel better. And all those other things will kind of take care of themselves. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel better about your husband. You're going to feel more sexy and attractive yourself, and treat other people nicer, which is going to affect your relationship. So it's just ignoring those things. Maybe you've been blessed with excellent genetics and you look amazing, but at some point you're still going to need to be active so that you have good heart health, and so just as young as you can start just creating those good habits, you just feel better about yourself. It's nothing extreme. It's just simple things. Don't lay around and stare at your phone all day long. Don't choose junk food all the time. Don't, those things that you just regret because they don't make you feel good about yourself at all. In fact, ditch the phone. If you're spending a lot of time staring at a screen, probably all that stuff that you're taking in is not making you feel good about yourself. So
comparisons and all that would be a whole different topic.
Got a little
just a couple more things. One of the things that has been challenging for us has been a blessing and a curse, but mostly a blessing, but it can turn into something, is working together. And John he's a workaholic. I mean, he just is. And I know you've said this about Neil too. He gets up in the morning, that's the first thing, he checks his email, and don't want, of course he prays, and that's a given. I don't want anybody to think that he's not that, because he is. But we work together, and so we have this business relationship. And there's the certain things that he does for our trips, and then there's certain things that I do. I do the paperwork, he does the planning, and so we spend a lot of time talking about the trips or school or whatever it is. And sometimes he's never complained about this, but I do. It just feels like we're business partners, and I don't like that. I want to be able to set that aside, and not have to have that discussion about business things all day, every day. And so I think there was a time when I started feeling like resentful about some things, and I had to really think it through. And what is it exactly that I'm feeling resentful about? Because I like what we do. I don't want to stop doing what we're doing, but there's something that I don't like about this. And I had to really figure it out. And it was like we took on this persona of this business, and we were talking all the time about, well, did you do this? Did you answer that? Have you done this? And what I wanted to talk about was, what do you love about me? And there's not a lot of that going on when you're a business partner. So we had to be really intentional and talk about that. And we still sometimes have to say,
love about me?
Yeah, come on, I need to hear something good. Stop telling me what I haven't done yet. And when are you going to do this? And tell me why you love me. But we've had to learn to, okay, we've got to get this done, and we'll stop at 4:00, whatever. And then it's just like when you have little kids, and you want to go out on a date because you feel like all you do is talk about the kids, and then on the date all you do is talk about your kids. Sometimes that happens, and we have to say, we have to stop. Let's talk about some other things. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just saying that because I think that happens to a lot of people, whether it's just your kids that you're talking about, or the bills, or whatever. Set that aside and sit down. If you can't go out on a date, have a candlelight dinner at home and say, here's the topics we are not going to talk about, and have some of those prompts. They make those table topics for couples. And just talk about some other things. That's something that we've talked about in our marriage seminars, is having conversation starters, and not just the old stale ones, but some really interesting ones. And then I also just want to say this, and then I know we need to wrap things up. I know probably there's some women that are listening and thinking, well, he doesn't do any of these things. He's not careful about what he wears. He doesn't try to smell good, or whatever. And I know that's true. I know that we're blessed by the two men that we have that are considerate of us, but I know that there's a lot of women out there whose maybe their husbands just don't think the same way. They are still working on their relationship with God. There's a lot of reasons why there going to be some women that are thinking, I wish that my husband would be considerate of me. I wish that my husband was more cautious, or would approach me in a different way. And I just want to caution women to be careful not to compare. You take care of you. You do what God wants you to do. Let your walk in life be the way that you'll be attractive to your husband. And then you can change him by your own walk in life. That's that whole passage that talks about sometimes without a word, you can win your husband. And that's speaking of conversion and Christianity, but you can also modify their behavior by your own behavior. So don't think about what he doesn't do. Just think about what you need to do. I know that's easier said than done, but I just want to encourage people. I have to remind myself of that.
Yeah, well, any endeavor like this, if you go in with the mindset of, well, you first, I'll start being more flirty with you again, but you first. I'll start being more thoughtful, but you first. First of all, that's the wrong motivation. But secondly, that kind of attitude, it just kind of defeats the purpose before you even get started. Just right out of the gate, you just messed it up, because that's not what it's all about. And anytime we go into it waiting to see if the other person's going to reciprocate, we've already shot ourselves in the foot, unfortunately. And but if you go into it with, I remember when we were dating and we could not stop wanting to be together or thinking about each other. We were always talking. We always had things to say. We always, you look back on the glory days, if you will. All we're trying to suggest is, I don't think God ever intended for marriage to be blah, regardless of how the world portrays it. Neil in a lesson was talking about one time how in a lot of these sitcoms and shows, the only miserable people on the show are the two in the marriage relationship.
Yeah.
Everybody else is having a grand old time, and they're funny and they're interesting, but the miserable
they're making
people,
fun of the married people.
Yeah, I don't think God intends for our relationships to be blah. And every relationship's different, and I think some people are very happy and content for it to be quiet and comfortable and day after day sameness. That's great. But if you're finding yourself feeling stale and just, we're just kind of roommates. Yeah. We just kind of coexist. We just live together, and
business partners.
We're nice to each other, but that's about it. I don't think that it has to be that way. And that there are things that you can bring back or start doing if you care enough to. To show that you are very attracted to your husband and you want him to be attracted to you too, and to bring the spark back into the relationship if you want it there. If you're missing it and you want it there, you can get it back.
Yeah. Well, I hope that everybody that doesn't have it would want it, because God intends it to be something that glues us together. And, just there's so many times you feel like the world is such a cold and harsh and mean and ugly place, and God intended it to be different, but we people messed it up. But we have each other to be shoulder to shoulder and arm in arm, and so we want to do what we can to maintain that and make it closer and make it better and stronger. And so I think these things that we've talked about has been good, and I'm glad that the direction you took it. I think it was good that we spent more time on that, because it really is important, and I'm glad that we spent more time on it. We can talk more later about some of the other things. So good discussion. Thanks for that. So I'm at the church building, as you can tell by the scene behind me, and I think I'm here. Well, I thought I was here by myself, but I'm hearing things, door slamming.
Oh.
So I will let everyone know next week if I live. Hopefully I'll.
Yikes.
Just telling you.
Church but we're having can be a little scary.
Yeah, they are. And I'm upstairs in the far corner of the building, and I'm sure it's just somebody that's cleaning or something, but I'll let you know. Anyway, so do you have something good this week?
Yes, I do. Mine is food again, but I don't think I did food last time, but it's often food. But I've made this before, and I'm making it again today to take somebody, but it's called Mexican hot chocolate cookies.
Ooh, yummy.
They are so good. And they're, of course, chocolate, but they have just a little bit of heat, not spice, but just like almost a warmth to it when you eat it. They're easy to make, tender, delicious. So I thought I would share that because it'd be a great holiday treat. If you're having people over or going somewhere, show up with some Mexican hot chocolate cookies. So I'll share
makes them have heat.
They have a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of red pepper.
Oh, cool.
In them. But I'll share the recipe on the Facebook group looking up.
Okay. All right. Well, I came across a website this week, and it's called historytees.com. It's HISTOREE tees.com. I'll share the link because I may be saying it wrong. Historytees.com.
I'm glad you spelled it, because I was thinking TEASE.
No.
History tees. That's interesting. What is that?
T-shirts, and they are hilarious. I don't know where I think I was scrolling and came across it, and they are so funny. I'm sure there's some inappropriate things on there, so approach with caution, of course. Right. But like I don't think John will listen to this. If he does, he'll just ruin his surprise. But I had to get him a couple because it's about history. They're all history related, but they're like one of them that I got him was a picture of Martin Luther, and it says nailed it. And then, of course, it's a reference to nailing the 95 theses to the door of wherever it was that he did. And then I got him another one that says, English is important, but history is importanter.
That's cute.
But there's a bunch of them, like, I don't think I would wear them, but one was, it was Abraham Lincoln reviewing the Ford Theater, and it was 1 star, and it said, awful, do not recommend. Where he was. Yeah. So, some of them are a little bit like, you kind of feel a little bit bad laughing at it. But anyway, I just wanted to share that because they're just very clever, and there's pages and pages and pages and pages of them. So whatever, there was a Roman soldier, and it said, bleed less, sweat more in all of the gear that the Roman soldiers wear. Just silly stuff, but I thought I would share it because I thought it was funny.
You cerebral types will appreciate that.
I'm definitely not a cerebral type, and I thought it was cute. Anyway, well, good discussion. We just want to encourage women in particular in their marriages to remain close and to stay together and do what you can. Don't want to make anybody feel bad about anything. That was not our intention. But just to encourage everyone to do what they can to do better, to honor God in your relationship. And so that's just all we want to do. We want to keep people looking up and looking to God in the relationship, because nothing will improve your relationship more than obeying God and doing things the way God says to do them.
And I would love to hear from some of our listeners too. What are your best tips for staying close or keeping the spark in your relationship? And I loved, Carla, that you asked about Christmas traditions. In the group, and it was so fun to go through and read. I loved those answers that were given. So we always enjoy hearing from you, and appreciate you listening to us and sharing your day with us, or days. However long it takes you to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, could spread this one out over several days. I'm looking at an hour and 37 minutes. Sorry. Mom told me this week's was the perfect length. It was like an hour and 5 minutes. So. Sorry, Mom's going to be a little bit longer. She may not want to listen to this one anyway. All right, well, it's been good, and I love you lots, and until next week.